Well, good morning and welcome to another little video. I say another because I've made dozens of these type of videos to try and express or offer an alternative to the isms of humanity through spiritual means. And this video is going to be no different, although this video is going to offer a 5-part, if I heard that correctly this morning in my meditation, a 5-part collaborative venture with you that is interactive in a sense where we are going to go through some actual mind training procedures and examine them and see where it is they can be applied, literally applied in our lives to bring about changes to the nature of our lives. So there's a bit of background referencing that needs to be done in order to be able to give full value to these ideas that we're going to be using, to these concepts and principles. So I want to get into that a little bit on this video, and each video I imagine will have some kind of introduction along those lines. But I don't expect you to believe what I tell you in this video, and in fact I expect that some of the things that you'll hear me tell you will bring up active resistance in you and denial, and you'll be like, nah, that's rubbish. And that's okay, that's fine. I expect that, and the fact that you can say to me, no, I don't believe that, means that you actually did hear it somewhere in your own mind. So that's a beginning, that's a good step. So I would encourage you, keep an open mind and just be aware that that ego voice, that little judgmental voice in the mind, will try to blot out what I'm saying, because its existence as your tormentor, that inner, its existence depends on you not hearing and moreover not applying what it is that you're going to learn about in these 5 videos. So I would ask that you share these videos. If you're on Facebook or a social media network, share them, tag others, because the only way that this is going to help anyone is if we can get it out there and it can reach the people that it needs to reach. So just by way of introduction, my name is David Phare, and in 1997, this will be the first of the hard to believe, in 1997 I had an experience of leaving my body, leaving the world, or better, awakening from the world and experiencing myself as one with everything. One with God, face to face, if you like, or divine union, however you want to put that. It doesn't really matter. It's impossible to explain it. And it has taken me those 24 years or whatever it is since then to come to terms with it. And every day is still a matter of coming to terms with it. But it is somewhat joyous. It's a joyous coming to terms, and there's a remembrance that goes along with that. And yeah, well, it's a huge subject, right? So enlightenment or salvation or awakening, and I'm not talking about being woke. It's not woke. It's awakening, which is a spiritual action that happens in the mind when you reach a certain point or a certain marker in your life where you realize that there has to be a better way, and then just suddenly automatically you start to look and start to become more open-minded to alternatives, and you'll start to see things that make sense, don't make sense, and things that don't make sense that might make sense later on as you integrate other things that make sense to you now and all of that kind of thing. So there's no clear roadmap for anything other than the application of principles, which in this case we're going to use the one of forgiveness, which will probably bring up a bit of angst for some people. But I'm only forgiving myself So for my judgments and grievances and things like that, and we'll get into that later. But try to watch this whole thing in one episode privately, not with the kids running around, and not, and if you find it hard to find time, maybe you have to make some time somewhere and set yourself a little room or an area apart where you can just devote and dedicate to your learning, the same as you would as if you're a student in school. And if you are a student in school, I hope this makes sense to you. I often find that a lot of young people are quite perceptive to the ills of the world and the pointlessness of suffering and struggling and things like that, but haven't yet experienced it sufficiently in their own life journey that an alternative to that bears a lot of weight in the appreciation of it. So just see how you go with everything. Okay, it's I've been teaching this for 20 odd years, and it never ceases to amaze me how just out of the blue I can suddenly learn something from this that I had assumed that I had learned and had made sense to me, a decade ago. So life is always about learning. Life is always about including in, not isolating and pushing away. All right, that's the opposite of what life is about. Life is all inclusive because life is God. Right, now when I use that word, that might be another one that brings up resistance. When I use that word of God, try not to think of some guy in the sky that's waiting to judge you with a lightning bolt and send you to hell or heaven, or none of that stuff. That's kind of like a children's nursery rhyme version of God. I like to think of God as more like the Force, like in Star Wars. It's an all-encompassing field of energy or light, which from it comes forth all kinds of potential and possibility to experience either union with God or separation from it. And we're concerned in this video primarily with the union with God, because separation from God, which is love, separation from love is fear. And if you haven't seen the world for what it is yet, well, then that's what it is. It's an experience where you can come to realize what fear is and what separation is. But it'll make more sense as it goes along, right? So by now, you've probably realized that this is a spiritual video. If I didn't say that at the beginning, I might have. A spiritual video. And I've got a spiritual whiteboard up here. And I'm going to refer to this whiteboard because this is what came to me this morning during my meditation, was to do a series of 5 videos to add to the website, the Thetford Foundation website, which is www.findingme.net.au in the suicide and spirituality section. So if all goes according to God's will, then so be it, and we'll put them up there. So the whiteboard, since I've mentioned it, here I am. Doesn't look a lot like me, but it might look a bit like you or like anybody in the world. It's just a generic kind of head. Ed the Head. Welcome to Ed the Head. So human consciousness, right? Science, philosophers, blah, 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 can't work it out. Where does it come from? How does it even possibly exist, etc.? I'm going to tell you it doesn't exist. You'll never work it out. And despite the fact that you seem to find yourself with a voice in your head that analyzes things and tells you what to do and what shirt you're going to put on in the morning, or different things like that, you have no clue how it works or what it's for. Right? It seems to give you guidance. My thoughts in here seem to tell me about things out in the world, to do with myself, to do with others, etc., etc., etc. But why does it do that? What's its purpose? Right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, the world is a place, let's say from a spiritual viewpoint, the world is a place where all things come to experience separation from God. all things come to experience death, because the nature of everything in the world is death. Little tiny guppies die, and great big whales in the ocean die, forests die, planets, stars, everything here dies in this dimension. Welcome to the third dimension. And within that, we find ourselves wandering around, wondering what the hell is the purpose of my life then if everything's just going to die? The big question, right? Now, that's our existential question, which sits in the back of our mind here somewhere, our whole lives until we answer it, our whole lives kind of overshadowing or perhaps undershadowing our conscious directives and interests in the world, which might be relationships, possessions, and I should put power in there because that's a very driving one for a lot of people. A lot of people want to have power over others or think they know how things ought to be and so therefore want to become politicians or that sort of thing. The world and ecology, disease and health, religions and all that. And you could probably come up with dozens and dozens of other things that people are interested in the world, or I should say are distracted by in the world, rather than answering this existential question that sits in the back of our minds, which is, why do I exist? What is my purpose? And I could actually make that even simpler and just rub out why and put a question mark there. Do I exist? Now there's a good one. Do I exist? Just because I feel pain and ouch, I stepped on something or bumped my head or whatever, is that reality? Or is that just my thoughts telling me that it's my reality, confirming to me my perception of myself as this body having this worldly experience for whatever goddamn reason I don't know? And I shouldn't blaspheme, I suppose. There might be some religious people there watching. So what is my purpose? Now that's the big one. Right? Without purpose, we just go round and round in circles. And it's not too long before I start to realise that what's the point of this? What's the point of going to work every day, flogging my guts out for minimum wage or whatever I'm getting, when there's other people that have got enough money that they could give to the rest of us, we wouldn't have to work at all, and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, they're like this. It makes no sense, right? It makes no sense at all. Same shit, different day, and that's a pretty common saying here in Australia. Makes no sense. And that's what drives people to suicide. Their life makes no sense because the existential question hasn't been answered. And the only thing that can answer it is an experience. An experience of enlightenment, salvation, awakening. Right? Now, the great quest of mankind is to know thyself. What am I? Am I this flesh or am I spirit? Jesus tells me you are not the body, you are the spirit. You are not the flesh, you are the spirit. But what is that? What is the spirit? If the spirit is a true thing, I want to experience it. I want to know what it is. Not because something I read in a book or not because my friend tells me. I want my own experience of it. I want to know in my own heart and in my own mind that I am spirit. It's possible. That's what salvation is about. That's what enlightenment is about. That's what awakening is about. So to bring the mind to a state of inner peace then, right? Because if I'm looking out here into the world, if I'm feeling the pain and the emptiness of my human experience, of this existential emptiness, which within us feels like a deep emptiness, if I'm feeling that pain, that emptiness, that meaninglessness of life, and no matter what I do out here in these things, they're unfulfilling because I haven't fulfilled my primary mystery. I haven't solved this primary who am I question for myself. So if I'm looking out here into the world for answers to why I feel so empty inside, I'm not going to find any. Because the world is a place that is made that I come to so that I can experience myself as separate from myself, separate from my spirit. I seem to be a body sitting here wondering, is there a God? What is God? Why is God doing this to me? And all these other sorts of seemingly profound questions, but the answers are very simple. God is not doing this to you. Yes, there is a God, and you are that or part of that. And yes, you can experience that. Not necessarily through religion, although if you have to go that route, then by all means, I'm not here to tell you what's the best way for you to go. Put it that way, what's the best avenue for you to begin your research. I'm just here to tell you that an alternative is available and make this presentation. If you like it, then you might pursue something along these lines. But it is then the case that because I've come here of my own free will to have an experience of being separate, right, that I experience then separation and the anxiety from separation, right? Now, all anxiety is separation anxiety. It's all existential. And you'll say to me, well, I'm anxious because of this situation or event that I'm involved in or want to be involved in, whatever. And I'll say to you, well, no, this is only a catalyst for bringing up this anxiety. Can you hear that? This is why Jesus says you can't hear it. These things are learning situations that are going to open a doorway, open a portal in your thinking, open a portal in your mind that is going to bring about anxiety, bring about depression, bring about all of these things, all of these triggers, so that you begin to question your life. Not so you can become a better carpenter or a better tattoo artist or a better whatever or a better doctor or none of these things. If that happens, so be it. But these things occur as part of a script of, let's say, human experience to bring us to an awareness that there is something fundamentally missing in our lives, which is, why am I here? What is the real purpose? What is the universe? What is the meaning of life? And this is what we're here to answer. We're not here to become successful at things. I had a beautiful realization the other day. I was talking to an Aboriginal friend of mine in town, and she's not really an angry Aboriginal person about settlement and all of this stuff, but in Australia, as I guess in America with Native American peoples, would be the same thing. Colonizers come to your country and rob you of the perfect lifestyle. And I had to look at it the other day. What would the perfect lifestyle be? And I thought, well, I love going camping and just sit by a river, go swimming, and it'd be nice just to fish for my dinner or hunt a kangaroo and just live so simply, no taxes, no job, just, beautiful. And I thought, well, that's what the Aboriginals had. Exactly what they had. And people who thought they knew better came along and said, no. But even that, even in that beautiful kind of idyllic utopian version of a human life, still remains the existential question. Why am I here? What's it all about? What is the purpose and the point to everything I do if I just die at the end? And what is beyond that even? Right now, there is no such thing as death. Death is a portal. Death is a doorway. And it's either a revolving doorway back here to the world, where we again attempt to answer this question for ourselves, this existential emptiness, or death is a doorway that leads to the bardo and beyond. The bardo is like and now this is funny, I had this one with somebody the other day, and I've used this reference a couple of times. It's like a giant government welfare office where you get weighed in the balance or you get assessed and you either have to come back or you can go onward in the journey of your soul, having graduated from the third dimension of the human experience. And one of my early teachers, Ted, said to me once, or in class, he said, we're late timers early in time. So those of us who feel this emptiness to such a degree that we either want to kill ourselves, which for me didn't work, or answer the question. We're rare, but the pressure is building. The pressure is building out there in the world. We have this coronavirus thing and everybody's questioning life and what it's about and why do we live like this and what is the meaning of our lives. And, like I remember when 9/11 happened and the buildings came down, and I was sitting in a class and somebody said that all the spiritual books in every bookstore in America sold out within a week. Everybody started questioning their reality, their experience of themselves as life. But it's not until these things here, our interests in the world, become compromised and become so hard, or the rug gets pulled out, that we begin to even want to stop and question, why am I here? So in these next 5 videos then, I want to really try and present the idea, I guess, that the world is a dream, the world is an illusion, the world is a place where, even though it seems to be very real, we are not bound by the rules that are set up here that seemingly get presented to us that we have to participate in. And I'm talking more rules of nutrition and finance and things like that, not rules as in don't kill people. And I saw a beautiful T-shirt online the other day that I actually bought. I'm waiting for it to come. I might wear it in one of my videos. It's a picture of Buddha, and it says, Buddha says, try not to be a cunt. Now, sorry if you have a reaction to that C word. Remember, I told you there would be reactions to things. But basically, that's it. That's the whole teaching in a nutshell. But to do that, to rise up from that guttural kind of human eye for an eye kind of mentality, which is the old Jehovistic God, that eye for an eye, and to become a representative, let's say, or a practicer of Elohistic principles, which is forgiveness and compassion and all of those sorts of things. It takes enormous change in the consciousness, because we're born into the world here, seemingly born into the world here, to experience separation. We're educated in separation. We're convinced by it 24 hours a day that I'm a body, you're a body, all of this sort of stuff. It takes an incredible devotion and an incredible amount of effort and dedication and discipline to push through this learning and to make a gap in it where you can start to see the light of reason from a different perspective. So the idea that the world then is an illusion or is a dream, and that you are somewhere else dreaming it, right? That now you're not really somewhere else, but if I was to present the idea to you that God is everything, and God is eternal and perfect and whole and creates in its own likeness, right? That's a fairly biblical reference. That would have to mean then, if God is everything, that you are part of that. If God is formless and God is spirit, you are part of that. If God creates in its own likeness, you are created in its own likeness. You see where I'm going with this? Right? Now and if God is eternal, you are eternal. Right? Now that's going to be the backdrop and the reference, the litmus test, if you like, for every time you find yourself confronted by one of these worldly situations. Because what we're attempting to do in our spiritual transition is to realign our self-identity from being physical to being what it actually is as spirit. So, and it takes a bit. And if you find yourself confronted now by the existential nature of life, and you're feeling suicidal and you're feeling like there's no hope and everything else like that, well, you're true. there's no hope out here. There's no hope out in all this stuff. The hope is within you. But to find it, to begin to avail yourself of the auspices of hope as, let's say, something that has already been fulfilled in you, something that is simply waiting for you to remember it, then that's the offering that these videos are going to make. That's the foundation and the premise of spiritual pursuit, is to remember what you already know. And in that, this vanishes. In my own experience in 1997, although it was hard to digest, incredibly hard to integrate, this inner emptiness that I had about my life that caused me to want to take my life, put a rope around my neck and a bottle of pills and all of that, it vanished. I haven't felt that inner anxiety ever since. There have been, and I have to be honest here, there have been confrontational moments in the last 20 odd years through my participation with things along these lines that have brought up a remembrance of how that once felt, but has already been fulfilled. So the tendency to want to look at situations, for me anyway, that are occurring seemingly in the present time, tends to fall into a bracket of things that has already happened, tends to fall into a bracket of things that has already been resolved, and allows me in that to step back and to become witness to that resolution miraculously, which is really lovely. I really enjoy that. So stick around, I guess, and remember, share this video and the other videos that follow this. If you see me wearing a rude Buddha shirt, that's great. It's like, if it offends you, that's great too, because it gives you an opportunity then to, and if it's not a Buddha shirt, believe me, it'll be something else that your next door neighbor says or you think of or whatever. There's always going to be something. Remember, the world, let's see here. The world is a great big trigger. Bang. And there's D for death. I don't know if that makes any sense. But the world's a trigger. Right? The world contains all of the catalysts or the triggers in your mind to keep you reacting to the world, to keep you reacting to what's out there and keep from you the fulfillment of what's going on, what's truly going on, and hide from you your real purpose. What is my purpose? Your purpose is to know yourself, is to find yourself, is to awaken, is to remember what you already know. It's hard to talk about, but it's, and I know there are a lot of spiritual minds out there. Oh, well, you can't, blah, 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 this and that. Whatever. We're looking at a basic, simple, comprehensive outline of the situation that you find yourself in and an alternative to it. If you don't understand how it is that your ego, your thinking mind corrupts you, how it is that it leads you astray, you're not going to know what to apply forgiveness to. And it's easy enough to go, oh, well, I'm whole and perfect, there's nothing to forgive. And good luck with that. That may be the truth, but I find myself grounded in a place where every day God's voice calls upon my forgiveness to save me. There's not a moment without it. Using a spiritual concept to defend myself from how I truly feel is pointless. I'm horrified. I hate it. I hate the world. Jesus says you must hate the world. It's like, that's a funny thing for Jesus to say, you might think, but it's true. You have to look at the world and, you'll look at, oh, well, I don't hate all of it. But you have to realize that all of it is death. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is, how pretty it is, how much lipstick you want to put on that skeleton. It's all death. Even the good stuff. Phi Beach in Thailand and, climbing mountains. And isn't it wonderful? If you still think that you need time and space, if you still think you need all these adventures and things going on first, before you have to answer this question for yourself about your existential reality, existential situation, then get out there and go do it. This video is not for you. This is a video for people who feel the pain, who feel the calling of this existential emptiness. For those of us who have tried everything out here and seen that it just all leads to death. This video is a call. And it's calling you. Kind of funny. You can take the piss in salvation. It's all good. You can have a bit of fun with it, and you can't get too serious about stuff. I still enjoy to smoke my pipe, my tobacco pipe. I have to say tobacco pipe these days, I've learned, because people think crack pipe. It's like, what the fuck? It's tobacco pipe. And have a beer. I still enjoy all of those things, and enjoy whatever else goes on with daily life. But it has a different purpose for me now. It has a different purpose for me in that I'm watching my reactions. I'm looking for my triggers consciously. I'm an adventurer in trigger finding in here. I'm looking for my blocks to love, or my blocks to love's awareness. Right? If God is everything and God is love, as above, so below, then that means that the ability for me to find love in every situation I find myself in must be a true one. But in this world, because I've chosen to be separate from love, I've already therefore have an idea in my mind what love ought to look like. And I'm not talking about love being an emotional, physical attraction or reaction to somebody or something else. I'm talking about love as a way of embracing and seeing everything, which is really cool. All right, well, I love you, and I don't know if this is video 1, probably not. This might be introduction video, so I'll do another 5. Oh. Yeah. No, sorry, just a little side tune there. Another 5 videos, spiritual videos, and I'm going to put these up all together as some kind of a block of videos that can be presented